Good morning, students. Welcome you all to the online class of Logic and Philosophy. I am Chandrani Bhattacharjee, going to take your logic class. You are HS second year students. So, this year you are to read inductive logic or induction, its nature, kinds, etc. etc. In the first year, you have already read deductive logic, and for this year, your course is inductive logic. One term is common, that is logic. One is deductive and other is inductive. So naturally question arises, what is the difference between deductive and inductive logic, or is there any similarity between these two, etc. etc. So one by one I am going to clear all these things. As you know, logic is a science of reasoning as expressed in language. It deals with thought process. Logic is a science of thought. That means it deals with thought process. Now, this thought process or thinking, it is a mental activity, activities of mind. Thinking, feeling, willing, etc. are the activities of mind. So when I say logic is a science of thought, that means that thought or thinking process is a kind of activity related to mind. In logic, the word thought may be expressed in the form of inference or reasoning also. I repeat, in logic, thought may be expressed in the form of inference or reasoning also. Here we are getting two new terms, inference and reasoning. What is this? Inference means to infer something, and reasoning, these are all the sources of knowledge. Sources of knowledge. Then another new term, knowledge. What it is? How we can get this? So knowledge is an inherent tendency in human being. To know something means you are getting knowledge. So you are not the knowledge. It is there outside your mind. It is different from you. You are to acquire it. The awareness about something that is produced in our mind is called knowledge. Human mind always wants to know this thing, that thing. Wants to know means you want to get the knowledge of something. This knowledge may be classified broadly into two different kinds. I repeat, knowledge may be classified broadly into two different kinds. These are direct knowledge and indirect knowledge. That means sometimes you are getting knowledge about something directly and sometimes indirectly. Direct knowledge again is known as perceptual knowledge. What does it mean? Actually, we have our 5 sense organs. We have our eyes, we have our ears, nose, skin, tongue. With the help of these 5 sense organs, always you are receiving something. For example, directly you can perceive something. You are perceiving in front of you a ball, an apple, etc., etc. Directly you can listen something to some music. Directly you can taste something, you can feel something. In every cases you are acquiring knowledge. This type of knowledge, that is the knowledge which you are receiving through your 5 sense organs directly. These are known as direct knowledge or perceptual knowledge. If you listen to something directly, if you taste something, if you feel something, all these are perceptual knowledge and direct knowledge, because without any medium, without others' help, you can directly receive something. So this type of knowledge are direct knowledge. No media, nothing. Then comes indirect knowledge. Indirect knowledge is that which is not produced directly. If you want to get knowledge indirectly, that means you need some media. Indirect knowledge never comes without any media. For example, if I say all men are mortal, this is a kind of knowledge. Question is, how do I know all men are mortal? In logic, you know, as a logic student, you have already read it in the first year classes. In logic, all means it includes all. Men in the past, present, in future. Man means all men. So, if I say all men are mortal, question arises directly, how can you achieve this knowledge? All men are mortal. How do you know? Because man in the past, it's not possible to see. Future, you cannot see. And in present cases also, all men you cannot see. So, if we say all men are mortal, it is a knowledge, but how you are getting this? Definitely not directly, but indirectly. All crows are black, all swans are white, sugar tastes sweet. These are all indirect kind of knowledge. All swans, you can never perceive all swans together. Not possible. So, in maximum cases we get knowledge indirectly. Next thing, how do you get these indirect types of knowledge? And these indirect types of knowledges, there are various kinds. Among them, inference, testimony, comparison are important sources. So, all men are mortal. Indirect kind of knowledge. How do you know? Because it is not possible to perceive all men. What is the source then? Here, source is inference or reasoning. Then comes the word inference or reasoning, which I have said already. The logic deals with thought process, and thought may be expressed in the form of inference or reasoning. Here comes the word inference and reasoning, through which we can get knowledge indirectly. So naturally question arises, what is inference then? Inference or reasoning is a process by means of which one may pass from something known to unknown, something perceived to unperceived. I repeat, inference is a process by means of which one may pass from something known to something unknown, something perceived to something unperceived. For example, every time we can see that if air blows vehemently, there is lightning, thunder, then definitely rain will come. And repeatedly, after perceiving these, we make our mind that if air blows and if there is lightning and thunder, rain will come. It's a kind of knowledge. You are getting this knowledge through inference. You know, Ram is mortal, X is mortal, Y is mortal, Sham is mortal. Some people we have perceived are mortal, some are not. But after perceiving some, we can conclude that all men are mortal. Yes, it is true. We have not seen all men as mortal, but we are inferring, we are reasoning that all men are mortal because Ram is mortal, Sham is mortal, Jadu is mortal. After perceiving some cases, we are concluding all men are mortal. This knowledge, as all men are mortal, is not direct knowledge. It is an indirect knowledge. It is an inferential knowledge. We are inferring by perceiving some particular cases. We are inferring that all men are mortal. Always we say all swans are white, all crows are black. How do you know all crows are black? All crows it is not possible for us to perceive. So it is an inferential knowledge. After perceiving some crows as black, we are inferring all crows are black. So this is inference or indirect knowledge. Now, as I have said, we have direct knowledge and indirect knowledge. That means in case of indirect knowledge, we are inferring. It is based on, indirect knowledge is based on inference. Then what is inference? Inference is a mental process in which we pass from something known to unknown, something perceived to unperceived. Okay? Now in logic, inference is broadly classified into two: deductive inference and inductive inference. I repeat, inference is broadly classified into two: deductive inference and inductive inference. Deductive logic, inductive logic. In HS first year, you have already read deductive logic. This year, you are to read inductive logic, induction, inductive inferences, etc. So, deductive inference and inductive inference, there is a difference between these two. Deductive logic, you have already read. Inductive logic, you are to read. There is a difference between two, but both belongs to the group of logic. Logic consists of deductive and inductive. Two parts is there: deductive logic, inductive logic. There is a similarity between two and differences also. Now, what is deductive inference and what is inductive inference? You know deductive inference, what it is? It is a kind of inference in which we proceed from universal to the particular. Again, two terms, universal and particular, and you are very much well known to them: universal proposition and particular proposition. What is universal proposition? Where predicate affirmed or denied the whole subject. All men are mortal. Here the subject is all men. Predicate is affirming the whole class, all men. And particular means some. Some men are perfect. This is a particular proposition. So, deductive inference, in case of deductive inference, we proceed from universal to particular, from more general to less general. That you know. For example, all men are mortal, if it is the case. If Ram is man, then definitely Ram is mortal, and this is an example of a deductive inference. It is also a kind of inference because you see, you are inferring the conclusion Ram is mortal, Ram is still alive, but even then you are telling Ram is mortal, he will die one day. How do you know? Through inference. What is the justification? Because all men are mortal. And if Ram is man, definitely Ram is mortal. You are inferring. So, deductive, it is a kind of inference. But the process is deductive because here we are passing from more general to less general. All men are mortal. Here, all men is the subject. All men. Here, mortality is affirming the whole class. And the conclusion, Ram is mortal, is a particular one. So, in deductive inference, we are passing from more general to less general. But in case of inductive inference, the picture is different. It is also a kind of inference. You are inferring something. But here, we are passing from particular to universal. For example, Aristotle is mortal. You have perceived or you know Aristotle died. So, Aristotle is mortal, Socrates is mortal, Plato is mortal. After perceiving some particular cases, X, Y, Z, Ram, Sham, you have perceived. After perceiving some cases, you make your mind. Maybe it is the case. Here you are inferring that all men are mortal. You have no direct proof. It is not the case that really all men die. But still you are telling, without perceiving all men are mortal. You are inferring. How? By perceiving some. So, it is an inferential process. I have said earlier that inference is a mental process where we pass from something known to something unknown. Aristotle is mortal, that you know. Socrates is mortal, that also you know. So, by knowing this, you are jumping to the unknown facts. All men are mortal. By perceiving some, you are jumping to the unperceived one. You are inferring. So, this is inductive inference. Here, all the subject you see, Aristotle, particular, single. Socrates, single. Plato, single. And the conclusion you are making here is general, all men. So, in case of inductive inference, you are passing from particular to general. But in case of deductive, you are passing from general to particular. The basic difference, what I want to say is that the basic difference between deductive inference, both are inference. You are inferring. And inductive inference is that in one case, you proceed from universal to particular. In another case, we proceed from particular to universal, general. So, this is the difference between deductive inference and inductive inference. This year, you have to go through inductive inference, induction, etc., etc. Now, as we are to read induction or inductive inferences, so we have to know the nature of induction. What are the features of induction? So, nature of induction are, you are to make the induction. Ram is mortal, Sham is mortal, Jaddu is mortal, Madhu is mortal, therefore all men are mortal. This is the process of induction. Question is, what are the basic features? How will you make? What are the features of induction? First one is, for the establishment of the conclusion in induction, observation of some particular instances are to be made. You have to observe particular cases first. Before you say all men are mortal, you have to say X is mortal, Y is mortal, Ram is mortal, Jadu is mortal. Particular cases you have to observe first. Then you will jump to the general one. All men are mortal. So, for the establishment of the conclusion in induction, observation of some particular instances are to be made. Second one, as a kind of inference, induction is an ascending process. That is why you from particular go to the general. This crow is black, this crow is black, this crow is black, this crow is black. By doing this, you made a conclusion, all crows are black. Third one, establishment of an universal proposition is the main aim of induction. This is a vital point you have to know very clearly. Induction establishes an universal proposition. The conclusion of an induction is an universal proposition. All men, all crows, all swan. So, the main aim of induction is to establish an universal proposition. And this is the reason in induction the conclusion cannot be less general than the premises. Ram is mortal, Sham is mortal, Jadu is mortal. By doing this, you are concluding all men are mortal. Because in induction, you are to make a universal proposition. And what is universal proposition? You know very well. I am again repeating. Universal proposition means it includes all, predicate, affirmed or denied, the whole subject. All must be there. So, all men, all crows, all swans, etc., etc. And induction always establishes an universal proposition. Fourth point, the conclusion of induction is not merely a concept. Induction always establishes an universal real proposition as its conclusion. I repeat, induction always establishes an universal, not only universal, real proposition also. The conclusion of an induction is an universal real proposition. Now, you have to clear these two words very much, universal as well as real. Then what is universal proposition? You know. You have to know what is real proposition also. In my next class, we will go through this, and this makes me the end of this class.